You're listening to Inclusive AF with Jackye Clayton and Katee Van Horn.
Hello, hello.
Hello, gorgeous.
How are you, my friend?
Well, if I was any better, I'd be twins.
Well, there you have it, folks. This is Katee Van Horn,
And this is Jackye Clayton.
my twin, Jackye Clayton.
Yes.
And this is the Inclusive AF podcast. I don't know if you guys knew that we are twins, but now you know, listeners, now you know.
That's right.
Breaking Inclusive AF podcast news. Sister from another mister.
Right.
Okay, so Jackye, how are things today? It's Tuesday in October.
Well, doing a lot of self-talk, trying to figure out what is actually happening in the world.
I understand. And what have you come up with? Anything good?
No.
Okay.
It's the algorithm. It's just not working.
It's just not working right now. So I have something I want to talk about because I don't know, have you heard about all these government layoffs and this, like, in the name of fiscal responsibility, we're going to be cutting jobs and saving money and blah, 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 blah. Have you heard all about this, my friend?
Yes. I literally want to vomit because I just don't know. I mean, I feel like we're pushing the level of like what we can take. It's just as a people.
Yeah.
And as a nation, like we're pushing those limits. I just can't believe the gaps and holes when you think about everything going on.
Well, and I think, like, for me, well, yeah, I think we're all at that place of like, what more can you take in? But I think on this one, the one that this is where I'm like, we keep hearing this is like a fiscally responsible effort, but I think the reason why I bring it up is just because I think when we look at what's being cut,
right?
I know this might shock you, Jackye. Don't be shocked, listeners. Just wait. I think the question that I always look at is, okay, so what jobs, whose money, what's being saved, what's going on, all of these things. And so guess what? It's the CDC and the Department of Education, and it's being called cost savings. But when you look at it, I think that's where the story changes.
Right. Well, because when you do start digging deeper, like I wish we could say it was like, internship programs or extra programs or things that, like real
nice to haves.
Those, but it's not. It's need to have, like the ones that get to say whether something's a pandemic or not.
Mm-hmm.
What do they call those people?
Epidemiologists.
Yeah.
Listening. That's not the right word, but yes, that word, whatever the word is. Yes.
The people that are doing that. And I don't understand why cutting from the Department of Education is a good thing to do right now, considering what we know.
Yeah.
From looking in our own states.
Again, the scientists, the teachers.
Yes.
So, I think the question that I would love to ask you, do you really think this is a budget thing, or do you think this is yet again the government dismantling parts of the government that actually are there to support and help the welfare of humans?
Can we say yes? I just feel like, we already know, like, no, there is no surprise of those things that are going and who is controlling. And it's hard. I don't know. I feel like maybe I've been drinking too much of the Kool-Aid and I just don't know.
Well, okay, let me just give you some stats.
Okay.
It's more than 4,000 federal workers that were laid off. Over 1,400 are at the Treasury, hundreds at education, including teams that are overseeing special education and civil rights, and huge cuts at the CDC. So again, let's just use the word scientists, since neither of us can pronounce the right word, but the people who are tracking the outbreaks and managing public health. Period.
But also makes sense, since we don't have the Department of Education, why would we need educators? And also, since we already know, like, we're not going to have vaccines anymore, because those are problematic. So why would we need those people either? Like it's
You're gonna
all
make my head explode. Jackie, you're gonna make my head explode. I don't know. I think the part that I am struggling with the most is that, it continues to be this conversation of efficiency and, oh, the government's too big and the government's trying to get into too many things. But it's selective. It's selective efficiency. It's selective, like, hey, are we looking at defense budgets? No, of course not. Are we looking at border agency? No, of course not.
right.
It's really that, the health and human services, it's the piece that are we don't like the data, so we're going to cut the people that are counting the number of jobs, things like that. It's all of these other folks that are looking at how do we treat each other and are we making sure that we're doing the right things? That's what's getting cut.
That's always what's been getting cut. They
Right.
always want to say that it's about efficiency, and it isn't when you're looking at what we're doing within these places. But then also in the same sentence, we're not saying how are we supporting the people that are about to get let go or who have got let go, and how efficient is it if we have full, people that are saying it's going to take us too long to do this because we don't have the people here. Then you're not making cuts for efficiency if people aren't
Right.
able to act in that way. And, I think we also need to make sure that people know that, it is efficient, but like I'm saying, you're getting rid of those departments that actually work with, people that are being marginalized or people that do feel like the rights are getting violated has to do with civil rights. And those are the
Mhm.
same places of where we're seeing. And so it just goes back and shows why all of this has been so important since the beginning, even though it feels like we're repeating ourselves.
Right. And I think it's also when we talk about budget, it's not that. Like it's really pulling apart that infrastructure of how do we again care for people and how do we make sure that we are, you know, if there's less civil rights investigators checking in on, hey, is there discrimination in different public works? If there's less people actually looking at that, then guess what? It doesn't get looked at.
Well, not only does it not get looked at, but now, like, oh, we're going to cut half of the department. So the other half of the department is going to be scared, which helps them, makes it more difficult to get the truth if people don't feel like their jobs are safe.
Right.
How accurate is the information that we get back, right? Like when you have that, and then when that happens, then the person who controls the power in those organizations also control the narrative that goes forward.
Right. And I know this whole like, it's been the whole talk of the town for years and years of the draining the swamp, but it's
Mhm.
not really draining the swamp. It's getting rid of the protections for people. And I don't understand. I don't understand why that is something that we're trying to do or why that makes sense. So here's my, hot take. I would love to hear your hot take, but my hot take, calling it a reorg, calling it, whatever they're calling it, draining the swamp, whatever, it doesn't make it less of a gutting of actual things that are needed for our country. And, if you fire the scientists who are tracking pandemics, you're not streamlining, you're gambling with public health.
We need a rim shot, like brum, bum.
Yeah, I need a sound. Well, we had I don't know if you know this. I don't think that Robin or I mentioned this to you, but while we were recording at HR Tech, there was a soundboard that had sound effects. And
Oh
I
no.
was like, oh, we need that. We need that immediately. And so we did use it a couple of times on a few folks, but more for funsies. But I really feel like we need that. But what's your hot take today on things? What's your
My
hot
hot take: fiscal responsibility is the new PR spin for discrimination. Like when the only things being cut are programs that help marginalized groups, it's not budgeting, it's bias fully, full stop.
1,000,000%. And I think that's the piece that like people are trying to, like you said, it's a PR spin, make this into like, oh, everything's great, everything's fine. Look over here, not over here. It's the
Right.
same stuff that we've been getting literally from inauguration day. And
Mm.
I think the other piece that I would say is worrisome to me or kind of, makes my stomach hurt is that anytime you get rid of folks in an organization, and this is government or otherwise, if you're getting rid of folks who've been doing the work for some time, you're losing institutional knowledge. And when you fire the people that know what's going on and how things work, you're going to spend twice as much to rebuild it later because you're going to have to at some point fix it. So that's the other one. I'm like, I just don't understand how this is fiscally responsible because it's really not at the end of the day when you're going to have to fix something later because no one's watching these different things.
Right. Ew, good point.
Yeah.
All right, I have another hot take.
Tell me.
This is a hot one. It's like privatizing social services doesn't make them cheaper or better. It just means that you no longer have to be compassionate. I mean,
Yeah.
even looking at the example that I think of is has to do with prisons. And we used to see like so many people would get an education and feel better about themselves and then have different programs when they left. And then when you privatized it, all of that went out the door.
Mhm.
And so many things where it's like you can say it's for, you know, budgeting, but really you don't care about people anymore. It just
No.
doesn't work that way when you're doing it.
Well, and if you look at the recidivism rates, that's a 100% a great example because privatizing the jails didn't make people less likely to be incarcerated. If anything, it's grown exponentially people that are incarcerated and also reoffenders who we never actually rehabilitated and basically sent back on the street, said good luck and God bless without any type of social infrastructure to set them back up. So yeah, I agree with you that it's really putting that whole concept of, hey, if we privatize it, it makes it better. No, it doesn't at all.
No, and you're not saving saving money for the nation. It's just getting plugged
No.
someplace else.
Right.
Something else.
Last hot take from me, I'm going to give you, Missy. If we think about budgets being kind of moral documents, and I know this might seem like a stretch, but I want to go there because I want to say this. If we say that what we budget for, we value, it's kind of like, what we measure, we value the same concept. But if we say we don't care about science, we don't care about caring for each other, we don't care about inclusion, that tells a story, a very specific story that we don't care about certain things if we're not including them anymore, if we're not budgeting for them anymore, all of these things. So it's just like the real impact will be basically we don't care about these things anymore.
Right. We talked the other day, and I don't know in what order these have been published. We were talking about signals, looking for various signals as you're going to an organization that you want to be, a part of. It's looking at all of these signals to determine. And there are so many signals that the world of work is going to be in such pain
Hmm.
soon. And
Right.
what we also don't know, and there's been some work, but we don't know what all of this is going to be doing to the mental health of people in these circumstances. And I think we're going to see these things happen all the way around. And it's one of those things like, oh, that's why we don't do that. Like, that
Right.
walk around and find out. We're going to find out.
We're not allowed to use FAFO anymore now that Pete
Oh,
Hegseth has used it. I'm sorry. He,
no.
he ruined it for us. He ruined it.
What are we going to use instead?
I don't know, but God, blech. So I think the issue or the thing that really gets to me is that, we are seeing layoffs across the board. We are seeing layoffs everywhere. And, and it's not just these laid off federal workers. That is devastating, of course, but it's also the people that are depending on those services that are now just being thrown out the window. And and again, OSHA, like there's another great example. I know we've talked about OSHA before in different
Right.
episodes, but like when you throw that out the window, what happens to safety? What happens to worker, like just the basics of do I have a safe workspace or workplace for my employees? And no, not anymore. Or no, no one's actually watching to see if you do. And
Right.
it just reminds me of those signs that, and I'm sure, for those of you who've worked in this type of environment, and I'm sure you remember back, Jackye, when you used to walk into your workplace and there'd be like, how many days since our last, issue,
Right.
whatever. And that's all I'm thinking about is that like, it's going to be zero for some companies because they're going to go, oh, well, if no one's watching, then I don't
Right.
have to worry about this anymore
Right.
need to care about this anymore. So, I think this is where, again, we talked about this in the last episode. The role of HR is going to be even more important because if the government isn't watching, Someone has to, and I never want HR to be the police. That is not our role. That's not our job. But at the same time, someone has to be minding the shop to say, this is not okay, and this is not something we should be doing. And so we're talking about inclusion, we're talking about all these things, but it's also talking about like worker safety. Are we making sure that people are okay? As you know, are we making sure that the social structures are in place inside and outside of work? We're going through benefits renewal right now. And it's all of these things that you think about that you're like, we have to make sure we're covering some of these things that we maybe haven't in the past because we might not have a social structure that the government cares for, whatever it
That's
might
right.
be, with the Medicare cuts, with all these different things that are happening. There are other considerations we have to take into, they have to come into play as well. So I think that's where, the policy of the organization is going to be even more critical and be something that we need to be thoughtful about. But, for me, I think the biggest one is if you're listening, we have to stay informed, folks. We have to be looking at all the stuff. And yes, it's fun to doom scroll on TikTok. And it's fun to look at headlines and go, well, that doesn't matter to me, or that doesn't impact me directly today, but it does. And I think we need to know what's being cut, who those services supported or served, and looking at, how does this affect not just you, but your team members and the society around you, your neighbors, your friends, all of these different things. So, that's the big piece for me is just making sure that we're being thoughtful about what does this really mean for everyone?
Yes, especially like I said, I'm still going to go back to making sure you have like tightening on your mental health programs, or if
Mhm.
there's a place like friendly reminder to tell everybody where it is so they can access it, because we don't know how this is going to affect others in our community and their families. Even if you have everything perfect in your
Right.
bubble, you cannot promise that it's not going to affect, it's just going to affect everybody in a different way. And it's going to happen in multiple spots. Like there's not just one thing. This is like, um, we're seeing like value creep. It's that,
Yeah,
you know,
right. Absolutely.
feels
And
like as it's pulling back.
and I think it's also there's so much to take in, and I think all of us are exhausted already. But I just was talking about this with someone the other day about, just the whole topic of DEI, and that, as a straight white woman, I am able to kind of take off my hat around DEI if I want to go to the grocery store and not think about it, or if I want to do whatever I need to do. This is one of those times, though, that there is no fatigue allowed, and we can't let that fatigue turn into apathy. We can't, go, oh, well, hey, it doesn't impact me today, right now, this minute. Because guess what? Down the line, it's going to, or it will impact someone I love, someone I care about, whatever it might be. And the more we talk about it, the more that we have these conversations and keep bringing it up, you can't erase it. If people are talking about it, if people are going, yeah, this isn't okay. And we're seeing that with a lot of different topics that are coming up with this regime we're under right now. And yes, it is a regime. But if we keep talking about it, it's harder to erase it and harder to go, oh yeah, that's not an issue.
That's right. And again, like make sure you're letting people know that you care about all of this. Like I don't, if you're not sure who your representatives are, like find out who they are and let them know about your concerns when you're seeing all of this, or you're seeing these layoffs, or you're seeing that the services that you are used to getting has changed. Even if it's just calling customer service, like make mention of it, like
Right.
what the impact is, because I don't think we're making decisions without doing a full analysis on how they're how this is going to affect people and what are we supposed to
Right.
do. All of those people were fired like the first day. The
Well, and
people
that's the thing.
that
It's like the downstream. We don't even know what the downstream impact is going to be yet at all.
we don't even know about, like the first 100,000 that got laid off, of how many of
No.
those people impact us in a personal way.
Um, yeah, no, agreed. So contact, actually, we're in October. So we have some voting coming up here next month, peeps. So
That's right.
get informed about what you're voting about next month. Get informed about who candidates are, what issues are being on, are going to be on the ballot in your local communities, and make sure you're thinking not just about yourself, but about your community. I think that's a piece to also keep in mind is, like you said, talking to people, raising your hand, saying what needs to be said, all that good stuff. And finally, folks, if this is the final word I have on this topic, is if you don't know, tropical trail mix is Jackie's new favorite item. And I know that's really the most important thing we need to talk about in this episode, right, Jackye?
It's a great value.
Oh, a great value, tropical. Thank you. Even better. Even better. It has coconut in it, doesn't it?
Actually, it doesn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not that part. Oh, it says coconut.
So your executive producer ate all the coconut. Now we know. Now we know. All right, Todd, get it together. All right. Well, this is Katee Van Horn.
And this is Jackye Clayton.
Bye.
Bye.